Okay, before you scroll, look at this. Okay, why does everything in America look like this? There's no good urban planning anymore.
I want to give you 3 urban design principles that explain a sense of place, which will help articulate why we don't like spending time in some places and why we love spending time in others. The first one has to do with perspective. This place was designed for the perspective of someone driving 40 to 50 miles an hour in a car. In order for these businesses to get patrons, they need signs that can be read from far away, that are obvious, so they're bigger, more ostentatious, they're brighter, they're higher up in the air. This sort of overstimulation is not interesting or desirable for us to spend time around. And for a place to have a sense of place, it needs to not just be a place we're allowed to spend time, but where we want to spend time. But Jane Jacobs points out that when we say that a place is interesting, we almost always mean it from the point of view of a pedestrian. This is where the first design principle comes in. A good place has eye-level interest. A great place to see more about these concepts is the Not Just Bikes video, Sense of Place, and later we'll be talking about stuff from Jeff Speck's Walkable City. When we say eye-level interest, we mean walking at a human speed, at a human eye level. There's quaint shops and window displays to look at. Even the architecture itself and ornamentation is beautiful. And because we're slowly meandering through these places, we might step into shops we never intended to, and it's not an encumbrance because we don't have a car we have to think about parking or pulling over in time before we miss it. These need to get your attention far ahead of the time that you actually make the decision so that you can safely pull in. Perspective of someone driving 40 to 50 miles an hour, perspective of someone at a human speed. Second concept has to do with what is called enclosure. This is Lucca, Italy, where I was earlier this year. One of the reasons we like this is the ratio of 3 to 1. The buildings are 3 times as high as the space is wide. This is what gives us a sense of enclosure. For most of human history, architects were as obsessed with figural space, the space between objects, as they were figural objects, the objects themselves. And whereas modern architects are obsessed with a figural object, something that stands alone that catches your eye, it doesn't create inviting and welcoming sense of enclosures around it. So this is the figural space, this is a figural object, and old cities often took on oddly shaped buildings in order to make satisfying spaces for humans to convene. But if you contrast that with a modern building or like a modern stadium, you'll see that it's mostly empty space with an object placed inside of it. The space between these buildings leaves us feeling exposed, not enclosed. The final concept is entrance frequency. A lot of these European towns we like to vacation in have these shops and public spaces with lots of different things to do. Entrance frequency is important because it gives options for lots of different types of people, which brings the people and makes the place feel lively. Even modern shopping malls get this. They get people out of their cars, walking in an area with lots of entrance frequency. By the way, entrance frequency and eye-level interest go hand in hand. Also notice how modern malls have enclosure. They make us feel safe. Now, something you notice is that with all the parking and the extra wide streets, you could be at this business, a Walmart, and want to go just across the street to the next business, and that's over 1,200 feet in distance. So all 3 of these things go hand in hand for making spaces that we like. Now, something I disagree with this video is he says there's no urban planning anymore. That's just not true. The spaces we have are built according to the plans we have in place, which just prioritize the car over everything. Cars that take up 20% of the average American's budget. Cars that sit vacant 50% of the time and require storage all the time. Cars that kill 40,000 people a year. Cars that take up all the space that could be housing. Did I mention they kill 42,000 people a year? Now, somewhere in your town is probably a place that has a strong sense of place. There's a mixture of entrance frequency, a great ratio that gives you a feeling of enclosure, and lots of eye-level interest. And they're probably the most interesting part of your town, which ironically are also nearly impossible, if not illegal, to build because of the zoning laws we have in place.